Well, hello there everyone. You've tuned in uxwbill. I've had a couple people ask me about doing a cold start video for this year, and to be perfectly honest with everyone who has asked that question, and even those who haven't, it just hasn't been all that cold out. It's not even that cold out today. If you take a look over here, we've gotten our first meaningful snow of the year, and I know a lot of people will differ with me on this, but I think snow is absolutely beautiful. I love the way it looks before it gets all dirty, and also love the way it makes the world so beautifully quiet. To me, that's just incredible. Now, if you listen carefully, you might hear the periodic snowmobile, or even snowblowers out there. And if you're wondering how much snow we got, well, that's the size of my hand right there. I would say that's easily 6 or 7, if not 8 inches. There might be a measuring tape in the truck, but I think I'm going to brush the windows off before I try to get in there, because then I'll get snow all over my seat, and I'll get snow all over my seat. See what I did there? Oh yeah, they say that most bad jokes and puns are written in a stuffy room. I remember reading that in grade school. I believe it was a Silver Burdette and Gin reading book. Some of you might even remember the exact one, back when we had clay tablets and stuff like that in school. Anyway, it's about 30 degrees Fahrenheit out here, so right around 0 degrees Celsius, a little below that actually. I think it'd be -2 degrees Celsius or thereabouts. You can figure it out if you really care that much, because I don't. Anyway, it's the best I can hope for, and it is decently snowy. A naughty truck should certainly start, so we'll try that out first. Oh. Yeah, look at that. It's dark in here. Nothing to it. Starts right up. What more could you want? Alright, here we go. Time to measure the snow. Well, I was closer than I thought. It's right around 7 inches, and it's still definitely coming down. Much to my amazement, they have actually been plowing the street, which surprises me. Let's just say they're not exactly diligent about that. They're not exactly diligent about anything around here. Yeah, right around 7 inches. And it's still coming down at a pretty good clip. Yeah, it definitely looks a little different now, doesn't it? I always find it interesting where the snow does and doesn't end up going. Okay, so after having had my hair cut, or all of them, I'm back and I have a whole sheaf of keys to hand. We're going to try to do some more cold starts. I think we'll turn our attention next to this reprehensible mistake of an automobile, the 2012 Chevrolet Impala. The one redeeming feature is right here. Alright, it made it. That's a good sign. Got that one to start. I think Ruby's actually been somewhere today, so I don't expect Ruby to have any trouble starting at all. We'll check that out next. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not real sure about this. Ruby's kind of sporting a mohawk today. Alright, let's unlock the doors and just see what we get. Obviously the battery's up enough to do that. So we'll climb in here and we'll just give it a try. It's very cold in here. Oh yeah, no problem at all. You can always depend on your Buick. Always. Here I am behaving as logically as ever. It's freezing out here, and what am I doing? I'm drinking sweetened iced tea. That's what I'm doing. Whatever's wrong with me is probably hard to pronounce. Let's turn our attention to this tractor. Now, you haven't seen this more than maybe a handful of times, if that many. This is something that my father bought. I think most people his age would probably buy a sports car. as a result of materializing their midlife crisis, but no, he bought a little John Deere 1025R diesel tractor. And I don't know that I've ever run this thing in the cold weather. Gotta find the keys for it first, though, which I'm not having much luck doing. Of course, I'm not a professional at this like the key keeper is. So let's just see what we get here. I've never even actually started this tractor, so I'm assuming that I know how to do it, which is probably not true. Got the instrument panel all covered up. I wonder if you actually have to be sitting in the driver's seat to start this thing. Wouldn't surprise me if you did. Okay, we got something making a little rattling noise. Okay, that lit off like immediately. I did not expect that to do as well as it did. That's pretty impressive, especially since I don't believe this thing has any kind of cold weather starting assist on it whatsoever. Alright, let's go try something else. There's somebody's got a nice little setup. A little Ford tractor. 1210. I guess that's probably from either the 70s or the 80s. Looked to be a diesel. Looked like it had a mechanical injection pump on it. Alright, what have we got now? We've got another Ford. I don't think that this thing has moved since, oh, probably sometime in November, if that much. I think the last time this thing was driven was probably around harvest. So let's see if I can actually find the keys for it. This does have a nice new battery in it. Alright, let's unlock the door and... Ooh, it's dark and cavernous and ominous in here. Let's just see what we get. If I can actually get the key in there. Okay, we've got a full card of gauges, a radio that's actually playing music, the blower fan's running. I got a good feeling about this. It didn't do so well the last time we tried, but a little soft maybe, but it did make it. I think I'll let this one run for a little while, bring its battery up. And as always, I'm saving the best for last, although I think it's going to need a hit from the battery charger, because I haven't driven it since Hamfest time back in September, and that'll be the 1993 Chevrolet Caprice station wagon up next. Oh, unfortunately I was right about the poor old station wagon. I opened the door and didn't even have any dome lights. That's never a good sign. And since this battery's not exactly young, it was manufactured in the middle of 2012, I don't know how many more times it's going to forgive me for treating it poorly, which unfortunately I have really done far too much of. But I've got it on the charger, so I'll come back out here and try it again in a while. I heard something click on the car just now, so maybe it is trying to claw its way back to life. I guess we could just pop the door open real quick and see if we've got any lights or anything. Any signs of life. Okay, yeah, we got lights now. So I guess we'll just let it cook for a while and see if she comes back to life. I'd give it pretty decent odds of actually managing to do that, though. At some point, I definitely need to invest in some kind of a float charger for this thing, since I don't drive it at all during the winter. Well, alright folks, as you can plainly see, it's dark outside now, which means it's several hours later. My father's in the garage messing around with the snowblower, which, as you'd expect, it won't start. Speaking of things that wouldn't start, it's time to come back out here because the old wagon and its battery have been cooking on the charger for the past several hours since I shot the last portion of video. And now it's time to see if the old car's battery will forgive me for yet another transgression in its care and maintenance. Alright, there's the good old battery charger. I wanted to use the bigger one, but I couldn't actually find it. Looks like the ammeter's actually reading something now. Of course, it's never been particularly accurate, not even when this charger was brand new. So we'll go ahead and unplug it down here first. And then we'll take the leads off the battery. They're good and warm, so it's definitely been soaking up the current. The battery itself is still cool to the touch, at least on the top, which ought to be a good sign. At least it's not internally shorted. It might be damaged in some other creative manner from the neglect. We'll go ahead and we'll put the hood down on the old car. Plenty dusty. And then we'll go over here. We've got all the garage doors open just so we have enough air to work with here. Of course, you still have to be pretty careful when you do this because you don't want to be overcome by the fumes. There's our happy little chime reminding us that I left the key in it with the door open. Let's see if our radio's doing anything. Now, the clock's not as far off as it could be, so evidently the standby power was still working to some degree. Be interesting to see if my radio presets bought it or not. So let's go ahead and see if this thing's going to forgive me. Heard the fuel pump, got dash lights. A little cranky, but then again, I think these throttle body injected Chevrolet small blocks always are when they haven't run for a while. I wouldn't be surprised if this thing doesn't throw on the service engine soon light here shortly. It usually does that after the engine computer has lost power. Sounds like it might have a bit of a miss in it right now. I bought all new ignition system components for this car, including spark plugs, but I've never actually managed to put them on. Someone should probably take my wagon away from me because I'm not really being a very good wagon parent, now am I? Now, one of the last times I started this car, it was so bitterly cold out here that when I turned on the radio, it made the power antenna seriously unhappy. There was a loud funking noise from that general location under hood, and the lights in the car were dimming ominously. And it didn't stop even when I shut the key off. I was terrified that there might be an electrical fire or some sort of similar problem in this car. Yeah, it's definitely got a bit of a miss in it right now. We'll let it warm up for a bit. Let's see what the radio's doing here. Okay, well, it's back to AM. Well, yeah, my presets all bought it, even the hidden ones. I wrote an article about that years ago online, about the hidden presets, and it turns out they were only hidden in some circumstances. This car's owner's manual doesn't actually mention them, but the ones for Cadillacs and Oldsmobiles sometimes did. And later in the life of this particular series of radio design from General Motors, it seems that even the lowly Chevrolet buyer got to know about those. But interestingly enough, the service manual for this car does talk about the hidden presets. Now, back in the day when I tried that, I have no idea why I'm getting into all this. For a cold start video, you almost certainly don't care about it. But I am, and that's that, and I guess you can stop watching now and leave a snarky comment if you're so inclined. But I hope you're not. I hope your standards are a little higher than that. Someone wrote me to say that it didn't just have to be two buttons that were adjacent to one another for a preset to be accessible, that there were actually quite a few more combinations. And I don't know if I just wasn't enough of a twiddle fingers at the time when I discovered this by blindly experimenting, that there are more than just 4 presets here, or what the case might be. But the only ones I ever got to work were this, and then the 2 buttons in the center. But somebody wrote to tell me that the other buttons that are not immediately adjacent to one another will also work to give you still more presets. So I guess we'll try to find that out. I guess we'll just see if we can pick a random station here and put it in the memory that way. Okay, now we'll go to another. I don't think it worked. Yeah, it did if it registered both buttons, but no, I don't know. Maybe it only worked on certain revisions of these radios. I don't think it worked on this one. Yeah, it's just setting the first preset. So maybe I'm not enough of a twiddle fingers to do this. We'll go ahead and turn that off and just make sure the antenna mast goes down. That is, as far as I'm aware, the original power antenna. As you can tell, I don't drive the old horse very much. Got a decent amount of fuel in it. We'll just go ahead and let it warm up for a little bit, and then I'll shut it off and let it slink back into its restful state once again. Yep, there it is in all of its glory. How many of you out there remember when car warning lights actually had words on them instead of symbols? This thing's kind of an odd mixture of both. There are some symbols, but almost everything is still labeled with words. Every time I've pulled the codes from this car to see what it was unhappy about, it's always pointed to the heated oxygen sensor as the culprit, so those probably ought to be replaced at some point in the future. I didn't buy any of those when I bought all the ignition system overhaul components. But it always resets itself after a drive cycle, so I'd say they're just marginal rather than actually being bad. Well, thank you for watching if you've made it through the entire video, and as always, I am most certainly interested in your constructive commentary.